Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Infuse Your Future podcast. I'm your host, Dr. C. And today we're here with a very good friend of mine from way back, Teresa Rohr. She's an administrative assistant at the University of Louisville School of Engineering and just a really great person overall. And she's, bravely agreed to talk about friendship on the air with me today. So without further ado, hi, Teresa.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate it because I know that you're just genuinely a really good human being, and you've kind of spent your life doing good things for the people, good things for people, good things for the world. And you just treat everyone with respect and love. So I'm proud to call you a friend.
Well, thank you. It's really a goal of mine to be a friend, a good person, to be respectful of others, and to really provide comfort, encouragement wherever it's needed.
And we certainly need a lot of it today.
Yes, we do.
Probably at any time in the world. But as many of you know, on the podcast, I love interviewing people who are doing positive things in the world and just trying to make the world a better place. And friendships are super important in that. So I'm just wondering for you, Teresa, how would you define friendship? And
Well, I have a very special friend that I've had since I was about 6 or 8 years old. I mean, we're still friends to this day. And wow. I would say, just looking at that singular relationship there, it is caring about one another in the good times, the bad times, when they're having good days and they're having rough days. Maybe when they're unkind, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that you're going to walk through that with them and find some resolution instead of making some kind of snap judgment or taking it personally. Trying to always keep those doors of communication open. This particular friend I'm referring to, she just recently found out she has breast cancer. And even though she lives about 200 miles away from me, so I can't see her often, we try and talk once every 3 or 4 weeks, and I try to send her a joke or a cartoon or something every day by text, and they're silly, but just knowing that it makes her smile during the course of these chemo treatments and just the changes in her body, it really means a lot to me. And I remember one day when I sent her something, I said, "I'm sorry, that was really stupid." She said, "Keep it coming." Sometimes just those little things, for me, even just knowing, sometimes she'll just send me a little note, "How are you?" Knowing someone is thinking about you sometimes is a very big deal. If you're having a rough day, just that little thing can sort of get you over the hump to make the next step. So.
Oh, yeah, that is such a good point. I can't tell you how many times I was in such a low point, and a friend I knew or somebody I knew just sent me a little text, a little goofy text, and it just totally changed my day. Or just sent a text saying, "Hey, thinking about you. Hope everything is well." Because you never know where someone is. Most people try to keep a brave face on the outside and then carry everything until they get home. And so just because someone looks like they're happy and successful and having a great day doesn't mean they're not struggling with something.
And I absolutely have tried to be sensitive over the years. Sometimes people will cross my mind at such a random time of the day, and I'm like, pay attention to that, because as a person of faith, I really believe sometimes God brings those people to my mind to know that they need some encouragement, And so I always try and be very sensitive to that, to know that if that person has crossed my mind, especially at those real random times, that means I probably need to reach out to them in some way.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about giving them the benefit of the doubt and trying not to take anything personally, and keeping the doors of communication open, because I feel like so many people these days, they take so much personally and they don't give people the benefit of the doubt. And I feel like a lot of times that, just our society in general, the media, it's almost like their goal is to divide us. Everybody's trying to survive.
Yes.
Everybody's trying to uh, make headlines and get their videos viral. So they do some pretty lousy things. And if we could take a step back and just treat each other better and not take things personally, try to make
Mhm.
connections, especially with our friends,
Especially.
and this is one of the things that I value the most about you, because I mean, you can be friends and still not agree on everything, right?
Absolutely. Right.
And I feel like in our society, so many friendships are lost over this, which is so sad.
It is. I feel like having friends that aren't 100% like me, not that there's really anyone that's 100% like you, but even shares 80% of your beliefs. But what it enriches my life to hear their viewpoints, find out about their life experience, um, find out maybe why they're coming from that perspective. My life, has been pretty, I would say, safe and, contained in a loving family. And now, and I have a very loving relationship with my husband. We've been married, 44 years and that kind of thing. And so my life experience is probably very different than other people in the world. And I need to be open to hearing their stories, finding out what perspectives they bring to life that, I have no concept of. Um, we adopted our children when they were 10 and 13. They came to live with us. And so they had been in multiple foster homes and things like that before
Wow.
they came to live with us. And that was a very eye-opening experience, not only just finding out uh, what parents can deal with during the course of a day, but what, I guess, the tragedy that some people and the loss some people have had, even in their young and innocent lives, what an impact it has on them for the remainder of their life. And just being open to know people that have different experiences, different cultures, different interests, it enriches me to make connections with them and hear their stories.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's so amazing that you were able to adopt the children. And, fortunately, I'm not adopted and didn't have to go through the foster system, but I know many people who have, and it's such a tragic story. Little children there that are just kind of shuffled around and not treated well in many cases. And
Mm-hmm.
then especially for you and your husband, when you adopted them a little bit older, it was just so great that they were able to find such a loving family and someone who would work with them and really love them and help them get a better life.
Well, we hope we've done that. And we've had a good support system, through most of that, of having friends and family that were willing to step up and, that we could really count on to reinforce values with them, to give us a break sometimes when we needed just a weekend away. So, those friendships, they can really be lifelines. Um, when you are really listening to what your friends need, and so fortunately we were really blessed with some friends that knew, hey, I think John and Teresa are needing a break right now. Let me come and watch the girls for the weekend. So
And it's so true. We never know what someone's experience is, correct? Recently, I just went through a program called Trauma Recovery Coaching Program. And so we learned a lot about trauma, developmental trauma, and there's just so much of it out there today. I mean, so many people are dealing with so much. Immigrants, they're immigrating to this country for a reason, that most of them have experienced some type of violence or trauma in their past. But even in our own country, our kids having to grow up with the threat of shootings, not knowing whether you're a child or not, these days at the mall, anywhere, you could be
absolutely.
the victim of just some random act of violence. And then once it happens to anyone in your family, that person carries the trauma. And in the trauma recovery program, we talk about the generational trauma. So if you're from a family and one of your parents was in a war, I mean, that all trickles down. And, one of my good friends, she says she goes out of her way to try to meet people that are different from her, just so that she can understand their perspective. Right. And some of my best friends, I'm lucky that I have a very diverse group of friends. So I'm lucky in that sense because I've gotten to hear so many stories, and it really has enriched my life a lot.
Yeah, it can be scary too.
For sure.
Yeah,
It can
to
be.
reach out to someone that, at least on outward appearance, you have nothing in common with, or you don't see any way that you could make a connection. And sometimes it's really surprising because underneath, we've all had our disappointments and we've had our joys, and we have our hopes and our dreams. And so if you can sort of get beyond the surface with people, it's just sometimes a delight to get to know, again, just, wow, we do have this in common, or that is great that is your dream. How can I help encourage you to get you there? That kind of thing. I have friends now that are in Qatar. Well, I'm sorry, they call it Qatar, I think now, excuse me. And Greece and Honduras. And it's just a delight to be able to hear what they're going through. Like I heard just this week, I got a note from a friend from Taiwan who was wishing me a happy Mother's Day. And these connections, some of them aren't particularly deep, but it's interesting that they've stood the test of time and distance. Because when we did make that connection in person at the university or wherever, it was, even though it might have been a short-lived, it was a deep connection. And so even after like 15, 20 years, I still get little notes from people. And that's really an amazing thing to me. And I just feel very fortunate to have people, all, scattered around the world that we've maintained friendships with.
Yeah, I've been lucky in that respect as well. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share an experience of a friendship that you thought was an unlikely match, that something where you weren't sure how it was going to work out, and then you just sort of had this budding relationship from. Do you have anything like that and that you'd want to share?
Well, yes, I do. When I first went to the engineering school at University of Louisville, there was a group of ladies that got together for lunch often, about once every 2 weeks or so, and they invited me to join them. And when I went to lunch with them the very first day, there was a woman sitting across the table from me. And I'm a believer in Christ, and I try to live a good and godly life. And her language was just, whoa, over the top. I mean, it was like she could hardly have a sentence that didn't have some kind of profanity or vulgar language in it. And I think I sort of sat there and probably looked like my hair was blown back. I mean, it was like, not that I'm a prude and never heard it, but I mean, it was just so profuse, her language. And I was like, whoa, I'll never have anything in common with this person. And so I sort of was like, well, maybe next time we have lunch, I need to sit on the opposite end of the table. But over the course of the next couple years and just getting to know her in work context, as well as going to lunch and trying to have some social time together, I found that she was intensely purposeful about being a parent. She loved her children and she loved her family, and she served her mother, who was in a nursing home, with such genuine love and care that I came to have such a deep appreciation for her. Her life was not easy. Her husband was an alcoholic. There were just lots of struggles in her life, but she was a joyful person. And this care that she gave her mother and her children and grandchildren, and how she just delighted in them, it just really brought us to a really deep level of friendship. And we had some really sweet times together, and then she passed away very suddenly, and it was really left a void, in your heart and your life, because she had become such a part of mine in the workplace. And so that was definitely one that we were sort of on opposite ends of the spectrum. But when we found things that we had in common, we really made a deep connection. I think she felt the same way about me. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And what about, do you have any examples of good friendships between you and someone that has a polar opposite political or religious view?
uh, honestly, one of them is my mother.
I
She is
love
like
that.
the opposite politically from me. I mean, the opposite. And she always teases me that if she voted, she'd just be canceling my vote, so she won't vote, because she did the same thing with my dad. My dad and I, we were very much the same politically, but my mom has always been like the opposite. So that's been interesting. Most of the time, we choose just not to have the conversation because we found over the years she's not going to change my opinion. I'm not going to change her, but I mean, it would never diminish my love or respect for her just because she disagrees with me in that respect. Let's see, is there anyone else, like a friend that I'm not much of a political conversationalist. I'm much
Yeah,
more of
these days
listening
it's
than
kind
I
of a
am.
deadly topic.
Yes, it can be a very volatile topic, especially these days. As far as religious views, I would say yes. And one person at work that was pretty vocal about their disagreement with me. I just tried to explain to them that I was not trying to exclude anyone with my view, that, if she wanted to make her view known, she was more than welcome to have that time and to, speak her piece. That was never my intention to exclude anyone or to make anyone uncomfortable or whatever. And it took some time, but just continuing to be patient, and again, always greeting her with a genuine welcome, and kind greeting. It took a while, but after a while, she at least came to tolerate me. I guess I should say that. I don't know that we were ever like friends. And maybe it was because we got off to such a rough start. I don't really know, but I just tried my best to be at peace with her.
Well, I think we could also use our friendship in that regard,
Yes.
because I mean, I don't really follow religion. And if I had to pick one of the major world religions, I would say I identify most as a Buddhist. But I'm just kind of a spiritual person. You know, I don't practice with an organized religion. But, you know, I think we've always respected each other's different viewpoints and haven't let us
Absolutely.
interfere. I mean, there's so much value that each person brings, no matter how they practice their faith, you know, as long as they're not hurting other people, I would add,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Having those, the goal of kindness and building one another up and encouragement and, like I said, accepting people on their good days and their bad days. I mean, we're all bound to have a bad day. Sometimes my bad day isn't even me saying anything bad to anyone, but I might interpret something they said, you know, harshly when it was never their intention. And so we
Right.
just having that patience with one another. And again, back to the communication, being able to say, wow, I really blew that. You know, I didn't need to say that as harshly as I did, or that really hurt my feelings when you said this. And perhaps I just misunderstood. And I've found so many times that's what it is. It's just a misunderstanding.
And I think that's the key to friendship, right? Because when you really have a deep friendship, you're able to have that communication and forgive and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, be open. And, you know, in the trauma circle, we call it rupture repair. You know, maybe you're friends, but there's a little rupture, but you just repair it. Because at the end of the day, if you can't be yourself around your friend, if you can't have a bad day around your
Right.
friend, that's not really a friend. That's just somebody you have to, again, wear a mask for, you
Mm-hmm.
know, try to pretend that you're perfect for.
Right.
But a real friend, you know, you can show up with all of your mess in your life
Yes.
and they can hold that space for you and you can still be friends after.
Mm-hmm. I had an experience with a woman who had found out her husband had terminal cancer, and we were at the hospital. We were in the hallway, and she had just had the news like within an hour before I got there. And she
Wow.
just sort of exploded all over me with anger at doctors, anger at God, anger at why didn't they find this sooner? Why didn't they do this test? I mean, she just exploded all over me. I mean, she was just screaming at me in the hallway, and not particularly at me, but you know, all of it, I was getting the brunt of all of that. And there were no answers, you know, at that point. There's no way to respond to some of that pain. And I just let her just go on and on. And she finally just got to the point she was just pretty much exhausted, I think emotionally and physically, and just held her. And the next time she saw me, she's just apologized. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was just so uncalled for, so rude. So I shouldn't have done that. I said, absolutely not. You needed that outlet. I mean, can you imagine trying to hold all that pain, fear, you know, dread, loss? I mean, all those things, the grief and everything that just goes through your mind so instantly. It's incredible how many emotions you can experience in
Oh,
such a
yeah.
short time, especially in those real intense situations. And I told her, you have nothing to apologize for. Everyone needs someone that they can talk to and just be real with. I did not see that as being ugly or unreasonable at that point or anything. Now, if a year later she was still in that stage, I would be very worried about her. But, in those initial moments of hearing news that's so tragic and so impactful on your life, I mean, who doesn't need someone that they can just be that ugly real with, and still be loved?
Right. Right. Um, Pete Walker, he's an author that wrote a book about developmental trauma. He calls that verbal ventilation.
Hmm.
And I guess talk therapists would
Yeah.
call that talk therapy. And it really is amazing how just getting it out to someone
Mhm.
who has a compassionate space, how much that helps.
Yeah. Just listening, not offering any kind of solution or anything, just letting her pour it all out. Every question that's running through her head, just letting her verbalize it.
Yeah, good point.
Mhm. Yeah.
Go ahead. You were about to say something else.
Oh, I'm blessed, very blessed to have friends like that in my life. And I really, I think I've been that kind of friend. And one of my goals is to be that kind of friend. And I hope I can continue to love and support the people that their life path crosses mine, and we can walk on this journey together and hopefully encourage one another on the way.
Yeah, you're one of the people we would refer to as a heart warrior.
Oh,
How does
okay.
that sit with you?
Oh, I think that's a pretty good one. I like that.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to say about friendship or its impact um, on your life or the lives of people around you?
I would say one thing about friendship is there are people that I feel like that I pour into their lives, and I try and meet needs, and I'm always the one sort of initiating the contact and all that kind of thing, and I get very little in return. And so
Oh,
sometimes in my selfishness, I say, well, I'm done with you, or, I'm not going to contact this person again. But then my heart and thinking about it, I'm thinking they're probably the very people that need me to continue to reach out and to pour some encouragement into their lives, because sometimes I think people feel unworthy, maybe, of love or
oh,
friendship
yes.
or care. And I think when and may even try to actually push us away, but they're the ones that need it the most. And if we give in to that and let them control instead of continuing to be the one to say, no, you are valued, you are loved, you are worthy, I think they miss out and we miss out on that. So sometimes I think friendships, it's great to have the friends that are sort of 50-50 kinds of friends,
Right.
that's probably not a great way to describe that, but that they're your buddy and they encourage you when you need it, and you're their buddy and encourage them when they need it. But there's also those people that we need to continue to befriend that have very little, or at least feel like they have very little to give in return.
That is such a good point. Um, One of the things that I've read about and studied a little bit about over the last year is attachment trauma, and
Mm,
particularly for people that had developmental trauma, where they grew up in an abusive environment, or um, maybe it wasn't even intentional abuse, but some of the examples are if there's a sick sibling and then all the family's energy goes into that sick
yes.
sibling,
Mhm, mhm.
and they just kind of get sort of emotionally abandoned, or foster children, children that have grown up in the foster system,
Mhm.
um, and they were never able to have a secure attachment as a child. Then when they grow up, they have significant issues attaching with other adults. And then they do have this push pull where that's the one thing that they want, because for humans, it's just wired into our DNA that we need attachment. So they're trying to attach, but they're also terrified of it And so they might take a little baby step toward it and then kind of freak out inside and then back away. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, and sometimes just unconsciously sabotaging it, not necessarily stepping back, but just doing something kind of mean or saying something kind of
Yep.
mean to intentionally
Yeah.
push you away, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of those little memes going around about how the people that need your love and kindness and smile the most are the people that seem like that you want to give it to the least, or something to that effect. I'm kind of
True.
butchering it, but
Yeah. I get the point. Yeah. That reminds me of an instance of a coworker. He wasn't very well accepted, I think, by a lot of other coworkers. But for some reason, he would come to my office almost every day and, ask me how I was and that kind of thing. And again, his religious beliefs were very, very far away from mine. But over the course of the years, we continued to work together, had a mutual respect for one another. I mean, he did his IT stuff, I did my administration stuff. And then he took another job, and during, I guess, maybe the first or second year that he had left, we found out that his wife was seriously ill. And we were able to, a couple of us at work were able to reach out to him. And that friendship has sort of flourished since then. And he has become a lot more open to hearing about a loving Heavenly Father, because I think he's seen over the course of the years that I didn't require him to change for me to care about him or his pain or whatever. And so it's been a sort of a beautiful thing to see that even though we don't work together anymore or whatever, we still have a mutual respect for one another and see value in one another.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love all my friends out there that I have that same relationship with. So I just want to give a shout out to them.
Great.
All right. Well, any last parting words?
Well, just that I have always valued you as a person, and I've always thought you were just so brilliant. And I love your joy that you seem to have. At least most of the time I've known you, you have just such a joyful heart and outlook on life. And I've just always appreciated you from the time that we worked together. And it's been way too many years ago, hasn't it?
I know, right? I mean, thank you so much. That just makes me feel so nice, so
Yeah,
nice.
I've never forgotten you. And it's interesting that there are people that come into our lives like that, and we didn't work together for that long. Maybe what, 1 or 2 years, maybe?
Less than a year for sure.
That's what I thought.
And
It
then
was
we
really
played
short.
softball together.
Yeah. And it's just interesting that people can make such an impact in your life in that short of a time, and you're just one of those special people.
Yeah. And ditto for you,
Oh, thank you.
such great respect and love for you. And so glad we got to connect again after all these years.
Yes. We sometime maybe we just need some time to catch up on just life in general and what's happened with us. So
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you ever need to talk about adoption, we've done that. So.
Well, maybe you could come on to a future podcast episode and talk about adoption.
Okay.
Thankfully, I don't need to adopt. I have my own two that keep me very busy.
I'm sure. And what ages are they now?
One just turned 14 and one is about to turn 16 in about a week.
Wow. Okay.
Or less.
That is busy ages.
Yeah. But I had always wanted to adopt, like back in the day. But I just never felt financially stable enough, because I would have wanted to just have a bunch of passive income so that I could just devote all the time to
Mm,
the children that I was trying to adopt, because I know through other people and other stories that because of the ruptures that happened before the adoption, that it can be very, very trying. And I wouldn't, just for me personally, I would just want to be able to devote that time to the children to make sure that they knew they were loved and adored
mhm.
no matter what they
Yeah,
did. So I
absolutely.
wouldn't want to have to work while I was doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see, our girls have been in our life a little over 30 years now. They're in their 40s. And fortunately, and we are so blessed to have really good relationships with them right now. Now
That's
we've had some rocky times, but on the other side of that, we've come out on the other side of that, and we have some really good relationships. So,
that's awesome. Are they sisters or?
half sisters.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, we definitely need more great adoptive and foster parents like you guys.
Well, thank you. And yes, the world does need a lot of people to step up and take these children that are broken and it's just totally out of their control.
Yeah, so true.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and I look
Well,
forward to
thank
talking
you.
to you again.
It's great.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. And as always, I love to end the episode with a call to action. Today, I'm going to have two calls to action. The first is reach out to a really great friend and give them gratitude and love for the friendship. And the second call to action is to reach out to someone you may have lost touch with that you used to be friends with or maybe had a rupture with, and just see how they're doing. And in today's episode, we touched briefly on trauma and some of the after effects of trauma. And if you or someone you know is interested in hiring a trauma recovery coach, just reach out to me at www.infuseyourfuture.com or coachingwithdrc.com. Have a great day. Bye.